A lot of people are wondering, do I still need a lawyer to help me resolve or settle my injury claim? Because AI can direct me and write letters and help me negotiate directly with the insurance adjuster. First off, not every case requires a lawyer. If it's a very modest case where there are not significant injuries or losses, those may be cases that are appropriate to try to resolve on your own directly with an insurance adjuster if you feel comfortable. In more significant cases where there are prolonged or serious injuries that might impact either now or in the future, your ability to work, your ability to participate in recreational activities, longer-term medical consequences in healthcare. There are real risks going through it on your own using AI tools. Recently, I met a young man who was in a serious accident. He was pleased to share with us part of his settlement. He didn't settle his whole claim, but part of his claim he settled. And at first instance, it sounded like a very significant amount of money. It was 6 figures. However, as we met with him and started going through the documents, we realized that case probably was worth 2 or 3 times more than what he settled for. And even though he relied on AI tools and strategy and case evaluation, really it didn't capture all of the losses and all of the harms that he had sustained. With some guidance and with some work and a little more time, I'm very confident he could have recovered substantially more money. And, when you're talking 6 figures, 2 or 3 times more is a lot more money. We're not talking about, $1,000 versus $3,000. So I'll share with you some of the issues I've observed. Oftentimes clients ask, is this the negotiation? So for instance, we're at a mediation or we're at a pre-suit conference with an insurance adjuster or maybe their attorneys, and clients are asking if this is the negotiation. The entire claim from inception to conclusion is a negotiation. Litigation is part of the negotiation. Mediation is part of the negotiation. Pre-suit demands are part of the negotiation. The real leverage that someone obtains when they hire an attorney or a lawyer is the threat of the lawsuit, the ability to walk into court and prove your case. The lawyer's ability to represent you, the lawyer's reputation, the lawyer's experience, and also just generally the knowledge that the insurance company now has that this lawyer can prepare the case to ultimately go to court. And as I've always said, whenever an insurance company is paying money for a case, it's never based on the intrinsic value of the case or what's fair and what's right and what's reasonable. It's always payment for a release, for you to give up the right to go to court. So the stronger your ability is to show that you have a persuasive case that will present well in front of a jury or judge, generally the more money ultimately you'll receive because the insurance company wants to avoid that risk. So that's number one, the backdrop of having a lawyer that can actually bring your case to trial. Number 2, the development of the evidence. So a lawyer that practices in personal injury every day generally is going to have experience and knowledge on how to build that case, how to develop it. So what kind of evidence is necessary? What kind of medical is important to show? Which statements from family, friends, coworkers, what experts may be necessary? And that's important to start to develop earlier rather than later. A big pitfall of starting on your own is the clock starts to run, and there's only a limited amount of time within which you can commence your lawsuit. That's called the statute of limitations. We've talked about that on other videos. The important point here is if your case isn't commenced within the appropriate time or the time limit, you're forever barred from bringing that case. That time period, that pre-suit time period, is really important to your lawyer to be able to develop the facts of the case, preserve the evidence, direct the narrative, and really keep control of the storyline as opposed to the insurance company controlling that. Starting it on your own and then finding out 6 months later or maybe a year later that the insurance company is lowballing you puts you in a very difficult position, because when you go see a lawyer a year after your accident or injury, a lot of lawyers will turn down those cases. Not because your case doesn't have merit or didn't have merit, but just because of the passage of time and the difficulty it will be for the lawyer to prepare that case adequately and file suit and negotiate and do all the things that need to be done. Personal injury cases are very specific. Damages are very specific. They're broken down into specific categories, whether it's an economic loss or a non-economic loss, pecuniary or non-pecuniary loss. The value of each of those categories has to be developed. That story has to be told. The evidence has to be flushed out. If you just put the information into AI, it's going to tell you what you have, maybe, at best. The challenge with that is a lawyer looking at it, hearing your story firsthand, considering other similar cases that they may have had where they've had success, will be able to ask the right questions to you to explore whether there are other damages that might not be readily available. Maybe they're not observable on the facts as they currently are. But as you start to scratch the surface, ask the questions, you start to realize that there might be these other harms and losses that can be developed and pursued. So that's another important point. I don't think AI is capable yet of really digging into the nuances. We've all tried it. I put cases into AI to see what they do in terms of what does it recommend for value settlement. And that's what we found. Generally speaking, it will give you very generic settlement ranges without taking into account the nuances. What other factors are there? Who's the insurance company? Who's the defense lawyer? What's our experience been with this particular adjuster, lawyer, insurance company, etc.? So those are all factors that are really important also to establishing the value of a case. If you think about the scientific calculator, you could get the most advanced scientific calculator there is. If you put it in my hands, it's not going to do anything really extraordinary. It's going to do the simple math that I do. If it were in the hands of Albert Einstein, he could accomplish really extraordinary calculations with that calculator. AI in the hands of somebody with the knowledge, the experience, the ability to utilize the tool, I think there's a lot of value. I think there is a lot of value for lawyers being able to, in letting the lawyers synthesize information, search information, find information quickly, look for contradictions. But you have to know what you're looking for. It still makes a lot of mistakes. You have to be very careful. Those will probably become less frequent with time, but I still believe you have to know the subject matter. You have to understand the subject matter. You have to know the theory of the law. I think AI will make law firms more efficient. We work on a contingency fee basis. Our compensation is tied directly to the results. It's very results driven. Other more traditional areas of law with hourly billing or research and writing and things like that, I think are going to have to adapt and change. I think the public is going to ask those lawyers to set more flat fees. I'd also say using AI to find lawyers. It's a growing trend that we see. Lots of people will say, I found you on one of these AI things like ChatGPT or Gemini. And I played around with that too, because I'm curious, what's it saying? What are people typing in? And, being a lawyer that practices in the area, I'm familiar with a lot of the lawyers that do the same work that we do within our jurisdictions. I know them. I know their reputation. I know things about them. And what I found with AI, there is a drawback to what it does because it provides the information as if it's factual. Really what it's doing, it's sorting, it's just searching the internet, collecting all the information that's been put out there, mostly by the attorneys themselves or efforts by the attorney themselves to put that information out there. But when you read it on AI as opposed to a simple Google search, it comes across as very factual. I would be cautious of that. I wouldn't use that as the end-all be-all. Do your own research, meet the lawyers, ask the questions yourself about their cases, their experience, their results. Just a caution, tools like AI tools. It's not a substitute for a lawyer. In some circumstances, again, if it's a minor case, it might not be worth hiring an attorney. But if it's a more significant case, you're actually undermining the value of your case. I think even just the simple fact that you're communicating, writing these letters, sending these letters, negotiating, also undermines the extent of the injuries and the damages, certainly in the eyes of the adjuster. So how can you use AI and still have a lawyer? Well, AI certainly can make you more informed, help you ask the right questions of your lawyer, help you understand the process. It certainly can help with that. It helps your lawyer, definitely, as we mentioned, going through voluminous documents and records when you're looking for a specific piece of information related to personal injury law. It helps with medical chronologies and medical summaries and sorting and organizing medical records. So it does help with preparation. It helps with efficiency. I still don't think it's capable of giving a reliable case value. I think it's still very generic. Get yourself informed through AI, of course, but still get the advice of a lawyer. I hope this was helpful. If you have any questions, if you're wondering about the value of your case or whether you should represent yourself, feel free to reach out to us. We're available 24 hours, 7 days a week. Thanks.